Halo is an extremely iconic franchise from the combat to the characters and also the music. And now, one of the Halo series composers, one of the most important composers throughout the entire franchise, Marty O'Donnell, says the video game industry is now pandering because they fear being on the wrong side of some special interest groups who can be very loud and very annoying. I have a few things to show off, but if you enjoy the content I create, follow me on social media, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, I love Halo. I have always been a Halo fan, even when the games have not been the very best. I'm looking at you, Halo 5. But at the same time, this is a very nostalgic franchise for me, and the music that Marty O'Donnell helped compose for this is absolutely just breathtaking. And now he's actually coming out basically trashing this video game industry in the state of disaster that it's in. This is a Bounding into Comics article. It says, in providing anecdotal confirmation to one of the most widely assumed reasons for the currently abysmal state of Western entertainment, the original Halo series composer Marty O'Donnell has revealed that any and all such industries are currently living in fear of being on the wrong side of various special interest groups and their outrage mobs. Now, of course, he has worked on much more than just Halo. He has worked on a ton of things, most notably the other thing he worked on is Destiny, and he has actually gone through quite a bit within the industry. He was actually fired from Bungie right after Destiny 1, and he actually had sued over this and won. So, really quickly, what happened, in case you don't know, is of course he worked at Bungie for a very long time, creating soundtracks for their most popular of games. And of course, he, many years ago, back all the way at E3 2013, had prepared some tunes for Destiny, even actually collaborating with the Beatles legend Paul McCartney in the process, and collected the music in a work called Music of the Spheres. And it was meant to be music for the Destiny franchise for the next decade, and he was obviously very proud of his work. But then they showed the gameplay reveal at E3 2013, and he was understandably very upset to find that publisher Activision had pulled his original music from the trailer in favor of their own tracks. And he basically just went on social media and talked about how disappointed he was. And actually, in the wake of his firing, he sued Bungie, and he just recently won the case on top of a previous settlement for other issues surrounding his termination. So he has been in the industry for a very, very long time. And now I'm sure you're all, reminded of some of the situations he's been part of. But of course, he had actually recently gone on a podcast, the Andrew Says podcast, where he talked about his time at Bungie and, the state of the industry. It says, following a general discussion about his current political campaign to represent Nevada in the U.S. House of Representatives, he was eventually pressed for his thoughts on the topic of DEI in video games, with the host inquiring, when you were involved in games, was representation on anybody's mind? Was the amount of diversity, the amount of, say, transgender characters in games ever a topic that anybody thought they should worry about? And in turn, the composer affirmed, no, it wasn't. And this is the way the industry should be, in my opinion. Yes, it is important to represent all different types of people and share all different types of stories. But at the end of the day, if a company is simply doing it in order to, check off boxes, it's not going to work. It is forced diversity, and that is the problem that we have within entertainment in totality right now. If you just simply had a product where, it happens to have a diverse cast of characters, but it was still well written, that would be fine, because people just want, at the end of the day, really good storytelling, really good characters, an amazing environment, great music. Like, we want a generally at least pretty good product. And when you have forced diversity, it really does bring the product down, because if you have a really bad story, at the end of the day, it's not going to keep people's attention. go woke, go broke. We keep seeing that happen over and over again, said O'Donnell. DEI is not diversity, equity, and inclusion. It is a code word for essentially a Marxist worldview of power structures. There's so many catchwords that are being injected into the conversation. He also talks about, are you telling a good story? Are you going to make a good game? Are you going to do something that's compelling emotionally for people, that's fun for people? That is what creators should be concerned about. And I 100% agree. That is why I call out so much forced diversity and inclusion in the industry, because it is running rampant. This, mindset of we need these ESG investor dollars, so we're just going to go down this checklist and we don't even care if we're creating a good product as long as it's a product that modern audiences want, aka sensitive snowflakes on social media who don't actually buy video games. It was never part of any of our discussions, like, let's make sure that we fill in the blanks so the characters reflect perfectly the makeup of society, he said. That is just such a creatively dampening way of approaching things, which is why I think the fans are rejecting this ideology. I mean, I could not agree with him any freaking more. This is such a sad thing to see. Again, it is fine if you are representing the real world and it's a game set in 2024 and you're walking down the streets of New York. Yeah, sure, of course you're going to see all different types of people. But when we're talking about like a fantasy world, and we're also talking about existing franchises and IPs, yes, you may obviously have some characters who are, people of color, or there might be a predominantly female group, right, like the Benny Gesserit. But at the same time, that's not always going to be the case. And we've seen such a drastic shift where it's predominantly like women and people of color. And if you have, a straight white man, he's typically the villain in modern entertainment, which just isn't going to bring a lot of people in, because you're going into it with a specific narrative in mind. That is what narrative consultation companies do. They go into products and then they end up ripping them apart and altering them so drastically that it probably doesn't even represent what the original game was. He also says that it really chalks up to fear. I can't say for certain what's in everyone's minds, but I know when I was there, when I was on the board of directors at Bungie, when I talked to the higher ups at Microsoft, there was a lot of fear, and the fear started creeping in. There is fear that you are going to essentially get on the wrong side of some special interest groups who can be very loud and very annoying, so let's placate those people. So I would say fear is probably one of the biggest things. Yes, they are reconfirming our beliefs that companies are listening to a very vocal minority of people because they are afraid of being canceled. This is why I talk out against things like cancel culture, because if you happen to create something that these individuals don't like, they will come after you and try to get you canceled, and ultimately try to get entire games canceled. And another element of fear isn't just people on the outside and people who are going on social media and talking about how much they might dislike a decision a company like Microsoft per se is making, but also internally with investment companies. Even the trillion-dollar companies like Microsoft are afraid of even the most minute changes in stock value and market cap. He also says that he thinks that when it comes to, those who end up running companies, that yes, they tend to just go the way the wind blows, and it's going to take them a little while to realize that this is actually not helping their bottom line. There might be a few true believers out there, but it's few and far between, which is true. I think the majority of executives do not actually care about DEI. They simply care about making money. But there are some at very large companies that do believe in these directives they're instituting. I genuinely believe Bob Iger only cares about perpetuating the message. And I think Kathleen Kennedy does only care about shedding a positive light on female characters and pushing the Force's female narrative. And so many other people are praising him for coming out and saying saying this. This need to not offend the constantly offended has hampered creativity in every creative field. I completely agree. People really need to grow thicker skin. Stop with the safe spaces. You will offend people. It's a part of life, and if they can't handle it, then that's a them problem. They'll fail. I still buy, Eastern games, rejecting all Western garbage at all times now. The only way out of this mess is to learn that those people aren't going anywhere and to just ignore them. And it's so freaking true. So it is really great to see somebody who, many of us know the work of coming out and speaking out against the industry, because unfortunately there are so many people, I think, that do feel this way in mainstream entertainment, who are just afraid to lose their jobs and their positions at the companies they work at, and to not get another chance to work on maybe a franchise that they helped create. So Marty O'Donnell has come out and said the video game industry is actually now pandering because they fear being on the wrong side of some special interest groups, just reconfirming what we all already believed. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.